Think gaming is just about buying a console and a few games? Think again. The whole world of gaming is hiding a financial rabbit hole that goes deeper than we could ever imagine. You've probably heard people say gaming's expensive, $500 consoles, $70 controllers, and don't even get me started on those 4K TVs. What if I told you there's a way to jump into gaming for less than $300? Interested? In the next few minutes, I'm gonna break down the true cost of gaming across all major platforms. We've got Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. Whether you're gaming on a budget or a graphics enthusiast, by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to get the most bang for your buck comparing all the major brands. So let's dive into the numbers behind the pixels. When the PlayStation 5 debuted, it boasted about having 4K, 120 Hz, and 8K resolution capabilities. There's this mythical, amazing goal of a stable, gloriously rendered screen that's absolutely breathtaking and so buttery smooth, it looks real. And that desire has driven up the total cost of gaming. How, you ask? The first thing that gets us is the added cost in TVs. Second is the expectation of high-speed internet. Most games need to download at least some type of release date patch to be able to play. In fact, setting up a PlayStation 5 requires internet access to just access our accounts and to set up and synchronize the disk drives during initial setup. Why? I have no idea. The third is power consumption. The PlayStation 5 and its counterpart, the Xbox Series X, both pull 220 watts from the wall, taking up considerably more power than the Nintendo Switch. And at our really high cost estimate of 26 cents per kilowatt, that's about $21. But once the PlayStation 5 is set up, we should be able to play games that come on disc without needing an internet connection, right? Well, maybe. Sometimes. Honestly, less and less. But why? We all ask, crying out in unison, or some of us. Sony's response is pretty emphatic. Money. But not all hope is lost. This isn't all games, so we're just going to have some additions and some possible costs to add on. That means that we'll need to be able to calculate the cost of hardware and input devices like controllers or mouse and keyboards, or output devices like TVs or monitors, speakers or headsets, peripherals, or extra storage like hard drives or M.2s, subscriptions, and of course, the games. And here on the screen is what we're going to actually use for baselining some costs associated with gaming. Power consumption. Let's use 1 hour a day, 7 days a week for easy math. I have it at 26 cents per kilowatt, and if you're gaming more or less, multiply it by the number of hours, and that way you just have the kilowatts and you can increase it that way. If you're curious about the internet packages that are required, drop a comment down below. The Explain It Like I'm 5 version of this is we're worried about two things. We're worried about latency, which is how long it takes for me to talk from one end to the other. The other one's capacity, which is how much information I can flow through the pipe and send and receive all at one time. I understand that heaping the cost of the TV and the internet and the power is not exactly fair to gaming, but it's good to know and factor in. Trying to game on 10 megabytes per second internet is painful, especially with all those humongous multi-gig patches that are required now and pushed by most games. So we're going to factor that portion into this video as well. But now that we have some of that baseline information out of the way, let's jump into the actual gaming stuff so that we can compare those costs. Let's start with the Nintendo Corporation, and the reason the Switch can blow away the competition price-wise is that it comes with a built-in screen. So if we don't have a TV to play on, that's fine, and it's going to reduce cost. The Switch Lite can't be played on a TV, completely eliminating that cost. So the family-friendly Switch lineup debuted in 2017 using already 4-year-old hardware. That means don't expect to be blown away by the power consumption or the graphics or anything. But that being said, the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to debut in 2025, and it's reportedly going to have some exceptional upgrades in power and graphics. Another benefit of the Switch is that we can play it completely offline, buying physical copies of the games, and there is a pretty robust used market. So although local vendors will charge 40 to 50 bucks, we can probably go to a yard sale and a marketplace getting them from anywhere from $5 to $35. So what's the cheapest that we can start playing on the Switch? So what I'm calling the entry level or the lowest cost tier that we have for Nintendo Switch is the Nintendo Switch Lite. And that's with a handful of used games at $5 a piece is going to cost us about 220 bucks. That 220 bucks is less than what it would cost for another console in general. But this only allows one person to play at a time. If we want to play with our friends, we're going to need another controller or a pair of Joy-Cons. So we add $30 or $80 for Joy-Cons. And we don't want to scratch or tear up our screen, so it's somewhere between like $8 to $12 for the screen protector. And if we want to get some digital-only games, those are almost always full price with Nintendo, so we need to connect to the internet. Let's say we do that at the library though, so we'll cut that cost out. But those games are now $40 to $70 because they're going to be at a much higher price. We're quickly at $328, $330, which isn't too bad, but getting a new game a month this way adds up quickly. What's this look like with a mid-tier setup? Let's grab a Nintendo Switch at 300 bucks and two third-party controllers like this at $60 and a decent internet package speed at 65 bucks a month and a 512 gigabyte micro SD card at around $35. Another $35 a year for the Nintendo Switch Online family plan and a few used games at say 10 bucks. But we're also going to add a new game on there at $60 and that $10 screen protector. The family's trusty current TV plus our extra power draw. We're going to have about $495 in upfront cost and another $817 or so in the first year. That's about $1,310? Yeah. So what about our high-end? Right now we have the Switch OLED at 350 bucks, and later this year it's going to be the Switch 2 at about $400 to $450. But then there's the nice 4K TV, and let's get 4 games from Nintendo to make sure that they're not used or busted or fakes or anything like that. And then we're going to go and get the Nintendo Switch Online family plan, but this time we're going to add on the expansion so we get all of those games. And because of that, we're going to need good internet speed. Then we're also going to get that screen protector, and we're going to get a carrying case like this, and we're going to get the 1 terabyte micro SD card because we have all those extra games now. And then we need 2 of the controllers again, but we like the art on these, so we're still going to do 2 for 60 bucks. That's $1,270 for the initial purchases, and then $80 annually and $65.15 a month, so $862 annually for a grand total first year cost of $2,224. As we can see, something that's relatively cheap can get really expensive if we're over ambitious with the accessories. Next up, we have the incredibly popular PlayStation 5. Sony's made this relatively simple. They have 3 console tiers to choose from with the digital, the disc, and the Pro, a few cool accessories, and a couple of subscriptions that are kind of optional, and then of course the games. Let's take a look at our bare minimum setup for a PlayStation 5. The PlayStation 5 Digital Edition is 450 bucks, and those beautiful AAA games are now $70. No PlayStation Plus subscription, and let's assume we're using our same old trusty living room TV again. We'll need the internet to do initial setup, so let's say it's $45, and that means we're starting at around $520 initial cost, and then $560 annually to get started with 1 controller and 1 game. But here's the problem. If we want to play on the cheaper console, we need pretty decent internet speeds, because we can't use any disc. We have to download massive game files. That 25 or 50 megabytes per second is really going to get bogged down incredibly quickly. Those downloads are going to take forever. Can it work? Yeah. Is it fun? Not really. Let's rework this with faster internet speeds. It's now 65 bucks a month, and everything else is the same. We're paying about $780 a year for internet, $21 a year for power, for a first year cost of about $1,300. How's that compared to the PlayStation 5 with a disc drive? Starting at $500. Yeah, the AAA games are starting at $70, but now I can go get PlayStation 4 games, which are a lot cheaper, say 30 or 40 bucks from a vendor, but there's no internet and no subscriptions, so we can get the more expensive PlayStation 5 disc edition and some used games for about the same as the first month of the digital only edition. Before we get into the next tiers, one splurge I really do recommend for the digital edition is an M.2 SSD drive to expand the storage for the PlayStation 5. Digital, disc, doesn't matter which edition you have, it has a cool spot on the side where we can buy a drive and install extra storage ourselves. This is not scary at all, I promise. I've installed at least a dozen or more of these drives, M.2 and VMEs. The prices range, but we're talking anywhere from $60 for 1 terabyte to $120 to $160 for 2 terabytes. And if we're really lucky with sales and we can catch a 4 terabyte for around $200, but they usually are closer to about $300. They do need to be a Generation 4 NVMe, so we can't just buy any drive, but I would hold off until we actually need the extra storage. So it's not necessarily a first year purchase. Back to it, with the mid tiers, we wanna look at our two different, our digital and our disc, and we want our free games that come with the PlayStation Plus. Plus, we wanna have online gaming with friends and family. Now our digital edition bundle looks more like this. The console's at $450, 2 games at $70, our PlayStation Plus Essential at the monthly rate, an extra controller at $75, and our $65 a month internet package. Our upfront costs are now $665. Our monthly costs are $75 or $900 a year for a total first year cost of $1,585. Add on those accessories like the 1 terabyte M.2 drive at $60, some headphones at $75, and we add on $135, bringing the total up to $1,700, give or take. Now, if we look at the disc bundle, we're looking at actually roughly the same, except we can still buy some of those games used. So we can get 1 new game at $70 and then 3 used games at $20 each at a yard sale. This means that we now have 4 games at less than the price of 2 new digital ones. We're also going to get the PlayStation Plus Essential at the annual rate of $80, which saves $40 compared to the $10 a month. Now, that brings our total cost to $1,585, or with those accessories, again, it's $1,700, give or take a little bit, meaning that everything else being equal, with the disc edition, we're actually able to get 2 more games, or more depending on if you can find good buys. Of course, if we switch the digital package to the PlayStation Plus Essential Annual, it will be $40 cheaper. But again, that's give or take $20 or $40 at $1,500. In my opinion, over time, using the disk drive is going to be cheaper in the long run, especially if we're buying a lot of games, which is why we buy PlayStations and consoles. If not, then maybe the digital edition will be cheaper over time, but that might be based off power draw. We're really talking pennies on the dollar. Both of those costs pale in comparison to like a top of the line PlayStation 5 setup. We're talking about the new PS5 Pro at $700, a DualSense Edge controller at $200, Pulse wireless headphones at $200, or maybe the Astro A50 Gen 5X. They're $380. A new Sony Bravia 85-inch 4K QLED at $2,500, and a 4 terabyte M.2 at $320, and then PlayStation Plus Premium at $160, and then pre-order bonuses for $80 and $120 games, and we can just all-inclusive PS5 setup can set us back an eye-watering $4,710, and then you add in the PlayStation Portal at $200 and PSVR 2 at $550. It's a whole nother console by itself. That pushes the whole total to over $5,400. First year cost for over the top, let me wipe away my tears with $100 bills package at. We can't forget the lagging Microsoft entry into console gaming, where they kind of forgot the most important part, the games. But what they have done is make a lot of games super easily accessible for a relatively cheap price. So what's the catch? Like everything else with Microsoft now, it's a subscription service. Really, the Xbox ecosystem is a mess, and it takes like a bachelor's degree to understand it all. I've got a playlist that helps explain it, and it's in bite-sized chunks, so it's not nearly as difficult as trying to do it all at one time. So if that interests you, go ahead, subscribe, come back, check that out later. We're going to finish this masterpiece about what it costs to actually start. Our cheapest package for the Xbox is actually comparable to the Nintendo Switch, and it's going to have a little bit of the same catch as the PlayStation Digital. It's going to need an active internet subscription. The idea is that we can play the majority of games on devices that we already own, And they're trying to get that barrier to entry down, trying to get that cost down as low as possible. So that means we could technically play on an iPhone via a web browser or Android phones with the Game Pass app. We could play with the newer Samsung TVs. We could play with a Fire Stick 4K or 4K Max model. And of course, we can play with our Windows PCs. And then, yeah, let's not forget, we can play with consoles. The cheapest option is basically what you have. So we're going to start with the $100 or the $140 Fire Stick bundles, and that gets you the Fire Stick and the controller and 1 month of Game Pass Ultimate subscription, that's the catch, right? For this low price point, hardware-wise, we have to offload all the computing to stream the games from the cloud, and they're computing out in a data center somewhere. That means that we need a really good internet connection with really low latency and really high bandwidth so that we can actually get the information in. And then we have to have an Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription at $20 a month. That means that the cheapest option is $340 plus our internet, plus our power. The whole grand total is going to be $1,100 to $1,150. Yeah, it's cheaper than the PlayStation 5 Digital Edition, and it does come with a couple hundred games, about 400-ish, and that includes the day one releases for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. But it's still expensive. So let's look at the Xbox Series S, which comes in with the $300 and $350 hardware options. We're going to go with $300 and then say we don't want the active Game Pass subscription. So that drops $240 off the price tag right there. So now we're just going to pay for digital games. That's going to be $70 unless they're on sale. And our initial costs are $370 for the Xbox and one game. Oh, but then we do have to have $65 a month for the home internet. And if you keep it all year, we're looking at around $1,150 to $1,160. So let's switch that up and look at the Xbox Series X with the disk drive. Again, it has multiple hardware options, but we're going to stick with the $500 1 terabyte model. Let's get one game at $70, and then let's look for a used game at a yard sale and say that's $20 each for 3 games. That's going to be $630 for the console and then 4 games. Somehow, buying the most expensive hardware option seems to be the cheapest overall. Again, when all the power and everything's factored in, because that's about $20 a year. In the mid-tier, we're looking at a few more games that are available through the active subscriptions in exchange for the higher recurring costs, such as higher speed internet packages and then the actual subscription service itself. We've also added another controller on, so it comes with one, get the second, $50. But we can now play with friends. And then get some $75 headphones and a storage expansion for $100. Ultimately, the upfront cost for the Digital Series S ticks up at just about $1,550, while the Series X will rocket past to about $1,740, $1,750. At the high end of the market, the high tier package, we're seeing stuff similar to PlayStation. Really, the main cost is going to come down to getting a TV that can handle the really high refresh rate and look amazing doing it. So getting Game Pass Ultimate to stream those cloud games, but we can also play their new games on day one and download them to the console. And we can add a few cool accessories like play and charge kits for the controllers, because for some reason, Microsoft keeps giving us Duracell batteries. And then we can get a great headset like a SteelSeries Arctis Pro, like this one, or we can go get the Astro 850s, or we can get storage expansions and maybe the Backbone portable thing. All in all, the cost can be as high as a staggering $5,500. It's more than $1,400 in recurring costs and $3,300 in the initial cost, but out of that, $2,500 of that was an amazing TV that you can use for other stuff. Now we get to the PC market, which in reality is a video all on its own. So let's just get this one done and dirty, right? Cheap PCs are just that. They're cheap. So we're not looking for an expensive solution like a gaming laptop or really anything with the word gaming in it, because we want to avoid that markup. PCs have multiple massive libraries, which is why I recommend them, the largest of which is Steam. Thousands of games on Steam compared to several hundred on each console generation. And they run multiple huge sales a year, which reduces the digital cost of games, but the costs associated with PC gaming are, one, PCs can be expensive, but they don't have to be. And two, because they're now a digital-only format, we do need an active internet service provider to download all the games. And 3, the accessories and the options can get expensive faster than any other marketplace that we have. So I have some basic entry-level, mid-tier, mid-plus, high-end, and we've got more money than common sense builds linked down in the description below. The links go to a place called pcpartpicker.com, and it's a set of lists. I've actually got some built with some NVIDIA GPUs because a lot of people tend to like those. Expect an entry-level PC to run 1080p in most games, cost around $350 to $375. And then a $20 mouse, an $18 keyboard, $100 for a monitor, and $30 for headphones. We're walking away with the initial cost just below $500. Then we have the monthly cost, right? That's power and internet, and that's going to come in just below $800 for around $1,300 a year. From there, we can move up to basically an entry plus build at around $680 that has double the RAM, more storage, a better and more capable motherboard, etc., etc. It's basically considered a console equivalent build that's right there. I've got one linked at about $660 at the time that this video is being made. Yes, it costs more, but it's also more customizable, it's more expandable, and it's upgradable. We can also get that mid-tier monitor that comes with this at about $250, or we could look at a mid-tier TV around the same price point. Our keyboard and mice are a personal preference without really a set price point, but let's go with $50 for each for now for comfort. When I say entry plus, and console comparable, and it's $450 to $500, or it's $500 to $700, $660 for the console comparable, those have somewhere around the same specifications, the same power, the same storage as what's coming on the console. When we start looking at the higher end sections of PC gaming with discrete GPUs, somewhere around cutting edge technology. PC gamers are early adopters for the next generation graphics, and they've been through 2 or 3 generations of GPUs since the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5 came out. So they are going to do so much better at 4K with ray tracing, which basically means they have like real looking reflections in water and mirror, and it's going to look more vivid and more real. That's going to drive up the cost of the monitor or the TV that we're playing on. We look at a $4,500 setup that's water cooled with a brand new RTX 5090 from NVIDIA and a Ryzen 9 9950 X3D, I think. Those builds are absolutely insane. You're looking $4,000 to $5,000. And then most of those setups already have 2 or 3 4K monitors that can push 140, 160 hertz. So we're talking $1,000 per monitor. That's not what we're talking about here. That is, I won the lotto money. Okay, it's comparison time. Let's throw up the charts. You guys have done great. We've blitzed through what each one individually costs, and now we need to actually compare what they are. But good job getting this far, or if you skipped ahead, great job. Hey, if we're doing a good job of giving you the information that you want and that you're interested in, I think we deserve a cookie. So tell me in the comments what your favorite type of cookie is. And if nothing else, it's just going to confuse people as to why we're talking about cookies. But price time and the charts. Let's talk about what they all stack up as. At the entry level, we have a clear winner. With the Switch Lite and the used games, they cost around $220 and no reoccurring cost. Xbox and PlayStation both have very viable options if we're already paying for high-speed internet, especially the Xbox Series S and a game coming in at about $370. Both the Xbox and PlayStation offline-only consoles, which actually both do need the internet to do initial setup, end up costing just higher than about $550, $570. Surprisingly, the Xbox entry-level Fire Stick for Xbox is surprisingly expensive for the first year at $380. Even though the initial cost is only between $100 and $140, there's the extra $240 for the subscription. It does have access to hundreds of high-quality games, so you get a ton of games for a low price. PC came in slightly higher at $600, but it does have the largest overall library available and the lowest average cost of games at $15.50. At the mid-tier, things really do start to even out, and we assume everybody has high-speed internet, so we're just going to remove that cost from the comparison. the Nintendo Switch is still a clear winner, coming in at a shockingly low $530-ish. Next is the Xbox Series S at a marked increase of about $785, and that more than doubles the cost of the Fire Stick from Xbox. The PC option came in at a respectable $890, while the rest of the consoles went up to about $950. At the high end, we started adding all the bells and whistles, and the Switch OLED came in at $1,460-ish. We can expect the Switch 2 to either be a $50 or a $100 more jump, and the PlayStation option easily jumped to $5,680, and the price just kept climbing with more games to buy. Xbox Series X really started to slow down about the $4,300 mark. I mean, you can add all the accessories that they have, and then you're buying games. But Xbox Series X has Game Pass Ultimate, which really slows down how much you have to spend, because for $240 a year, at the most expensive way to do it, there are other ways, I've got videos for that, you can go through and get as many day one releases as you want that are Xbox Studios and other games that are added onto it. So you can pay for basically 4 AAA games and get about 400 to 450 AAA games. And you can play it anywhere. Play it on your Xbox, your phone, your PC. It just keeps going. Talking about PCs, we really did keep the PC, tried to minimize it, but they are more expensive. But they're also extremely versatile. So if you're going to have PCs at your house and you want a game, if you just upgrade a couple small things here and there, or you spend a one-time upgrade, they will last and be more powerful for a longer amount of time compared to a console and the generational refreshes every 7-ish, 9 years. The other part of PC that I really enjoy is the average cost of games difference. So when we look at AAA games, yes, they're about the same across the board, but you can also wait to get the average cost of a game, that $15.50, because they go on better sales and more regularly on PC. There are some other costs to be considered. There's been a trend recently with AAA games, and they want to monopolize our time as gamers. So whether it's kids or adults, young adults, old adults, new gamers, old gamers, AAA games are doing what's called live service, or games as a service, which means that they want our time and they want to monetize our time. Some of them are freemium, some of them cost more. So we need to add another layer of cost to our running ledgers. How much recurring game cost are we going to face? So if you're interested in what gaming live service costs, or games as a service will end up costing us over time, and whenever that video goes live, it'll be right here. If not, there is another video that I think will help you. This is Wes from Ridir Gaming. Do good, play hard, game on, and I'll see you next time.